Greetings my friends, and welcome to another realistic railway recreation made using Transport Fever 2. Today we travel on the Metropolitan line from Uxbridge to Harrow. We've done the trip going the other way in an earlier video. This gives me a chance to show you the views that you missed the first time around. We're currently looking down on the platforms at Uxbridge station. We're going to get into the cab view of this train that should be departing shortly, and while we're waiting we can have a look around the station. You can see that the benches have got the Great Western Railway logo on them. That's because that's the mod that I'm using to make those platforms has those benches as a standard feature. Surrounded by office blocks these days. And while we're waiting, we can perhaps just raise the camera a little and give you a view of what I've constructed. Looking out across the sidings and the enormous office block, which is the headquarters of Coca-Cola. Behind us, I haven't put in a great deal of detail, but I've tried to fill in some of the office blocks and the shopping centres and so forth that surrounds the station. Let's get back to cab level. We should be moving fairly shortly. We leave Uxbridge station and we climb to the top of Honeycroft Hill and then descend approximately 60 feet towards Hillingdon station. Disused bridge that used to connect the land on either side of the railway. There are several of those on the Metropolitan line, as I have commented on previous videos, and there's an interesting brick building there hidden in the trees, not really connected to anything these days. I think it's an old electrical substation, and there's other examples of buildings in that style along the railway. We're crossing here the River Pin, and this is all the valley of the Pin, and indeed the floodplain of the Pin, because although it's a very small river, it can flood quite severely in times of heavy rain. This is the slip road to the A40 as we arrive at Hillingdon station. It was the last station on this section of the line to be opened. It didn't open, I think, until 1923, but it's also the most modern because it's recently had a complete makeover. I'm going to raise the camera and you can see the 6-lane A40 which passes below the railway at this point in a deep cutting. Traffic appears to be at a standstill. It's only because I'm using static models. Looking that way towards central London, and the other way is towards Oxford. passing underneath Long Lane which connects Ruislip, Ickenham and Hillingdon. And to our right is a farm which I know as Edinburgh Farm, and I've actually been there, so I know that's what it's called today, but on the maps 100 years ago it was called Long Lane Farm. And this is the access road to it that was built when this railway was built. I had some comments on one of my earlier videos about things that I hadn't got quite right. I've taken those on board. One of the things I've picked up on was Ickenham station, which we're coming into now, and I have constructed the lifts at Ickenham, which have only been there for a couple of years, I think. And I removed the rather ugly model that I had attempted of the staircases. There's another electrical substation immediately past the bridge to our left, which I have enlarged and rotated to make it more accurate. Again, thanks to a comment on YouTube. And it's this building here. I found a photograph of the building of this particular bridge going over Austin Lane, and I've therefore reconstructed that bridge to make it look exactly as it was in 1904. To our right, the Ruislip siding, and I've relayed that to make it a bit closer to the main track, and the depot at South Ruislip for the Central line. And the bridge ahead of us carries the Chiltern main line and the Central line over the Met. There are 8 tracks, and originally that bridge was built for the joint railway of the Great Western and the Great Central in 1906. That's another ghost bridge here. There used to be a farm on the left. In 1906 the Met, of course, had been here for about 3 or 4 years, so the new line had to go over. We're coming up to Ruislip, and there's an interesting mystery about the bridge in front of us, which has got 2 sections, and yet nothing goes under the second section. And a number of people have puzzled over this, and the alignment of the railway is such that from Ruislip Manor, the railway goes in a straight line heading towards that second section and then suddenly deviates slightly. You can see the bend in front of us, and it's almost as if that was the original line, and then they moved the station a few meters to the north and had to realign the railway. Well, that's what it looks like, but nobody knows the real reason. There's been some discussion about this on railway forums, and I've not been able to find an answer. It's nothing to do with the goods yards or the sidings, because they were all situated to the land on our left, which is now the car park. So we've gone past the little kink in the railway onto the straight section. Ruislip Manor station is in front of us. Constructed in the 1930s in a very distinctive style. all these stations were originally built to take longer trains than are currently in service, which is why the redundant sections are all screened off. We're coming up towards Rayners Lane. The land to our right used to be used by the Pinner sewage works, which was about as far away as they could get, I guess, from Pinner. It's also named the Harrow sewage works on other maps. This was the access road to it, Cannon Lane, but now it's all parkland. And the foundations of a bridge that used to be used for farm access can still be seen as we approach Rayners Lane here. And as is so often the case with Piccadilly line train waiting in the siding, having reversed at Rayners Lane. One of the other things I rebuilt completely is this signal box on our left. And it's essentially a brick and concrete cube, and I had used a much older model in default of anything else, but in the end I scratch built it. To our right, the Piccadilly line tracks move towards South Harrow. And if I make a video about the Metropolitan as it was in 1910, I'll showcase that section of the route and the Roxas viaduct. This was originally another access route for farmland. It's called the Ridgeway, now a main road. But when the railway was built, there was absolutely nothing around here at all. And as we come into West Harrow, we get a nice view of the skyline. We can see the flats above Harrow-on-the-Hill station, and once we've got clear of the station canopy, we will be able to see Harrow-on-the-Hill. The suburb of West Harrow surrounds us. The line coming in from North Harrow and destinations such as Amersham and Watford and Chesham, as well as the main line to Aylesbury, coming in on our left. West Harrow has two entrances, a new one here and the old one is down in the street, and the two are not connected. Found it very hard to model this fly under. I still haven't got it right. Oh, unusual to see a train on the other track that's halted. But there's nothing stopping us coming into our normal platform, platform 5, which is where this journey terminates. Hope you've enjoyed this brief ride on the Metropolitan line. If you've enjoyed the video, give me a like or leave me a comment, and if you subscribe to the channel, you can keep in touch with whatever it is I'm doing. So as we stop at Harrow-on-the-Hill, this is where I will say goodbye.